of what I want to go into is the collaboration efforts that we use. We're only as good as Lawrence Police or IMPD because that's who we use. And that's a relationship we like because our officers who work within our schools from those four departments know our kids. They know our community. They know us well. And that only brings an added support to us. As they build relationships within our schools, with the kids, most of the informed information that comes to us is from kids, going to adults. And we want to continue to encourage that to happen. So as we build, we're going to talk about a little more through Chief Hoffman of how they do that from the Lawrence Police side, because I think it's important that they're here tonight. We're excited that they are a partner with us, and I'll turn it over to the Chief and let him explain.
Thank you, sir. So I came to the City of Lawrence Police Department back in January after serving for 18 years with IMPD. And that'll be kind of important here in just a second when I explain why that is important. But we're hearing these terms, a lot of them: trust, collaboration, community outreach. And those are things that we use as philosophies in law enforcement in general, but they're so applicable to what's going on here and what we're talking about here tonight. My experience has shown, after almost 22 years of law enforcement now, that collaboration and planning and relationship building in times of non-crisis is so essential, so that if and when, and really we plan for the when it does happen, we're more prepared. We work very closely, because I came from IMPD, I know their structure very well. I'm very good personal friends and colleagues with the North District Commander. And if you don't mind, can we jump to a slide with the map? So the North District, so what you're seeing here on this map is the red kind of jaded square there. That's Lawrence Township, and if you look within, you'll see the little line that maybe 2/3 of that territory, that's the City of Lawrence. And then of course in the lower part, the larger slide, that is the City of Lawrence. So on both sides of the City of Lawrence is the North District for IMPD. Commander Chris Bailey is over there. And on the south side of that line is the East District for IMPD. And if you saw earlier the overall township and the location of all the schools, really with IMPD and Lawrence Police, we cover the entire township of schools. So that collaboration is definitely in place. And I can tell you that many LPD officers and IMPD officers work in an off-duty capacity for the Lawrence Township schools. And that is so important, at least as far as I'm concerned as a chief, because when my officers are on duty, they know the kids. They know what's going on in this community because they work so closely in the schools. So that to me is, and that goes back to the relationship building. And they know the kids, they know the families, where they live, they know how they're doing in school. It's a very personal kind of law enforcement, community relationship that I've never seen it in any other township in Marion County. And you know, people ask, well, why is that so important? And I can tell you, at least from a personal standpoint, and I know a lot of my officers and IMPD officers and firefighters alike are in this category. We have kids who live in this community. I've lived in either the City of Lawrence or Lawrence Township. I brought my son almost 19 years ago home from the hospital just a few blocks from here at 63rd and Sunnyside. And he came up through he went to Creston, and then to Fall Creek Valley, and then to Lawrence North. Just graduated last year, he's in college now. And my daughter, who's standing in the back, she went to Brook Park Elementary, and she now goes to Lawrence North. So when people ask me, why is it important to you? Why is school safety? I mean, obviously professionally it's important, but I take it very personally as well, because these are my own kids, and I can tell you, many of our officers are in that same category. They take their jobs very seriously, and that's one of the reasons why. So if you want to go to the next slide, some of the things that we do, it's not all serious school safety type things. We also have a lot of fun together. The picture you see on the slide there is Mayor Steve Collier, who, by the way, he retired as a teacher from Lawrence Township Schools after 34 years of service, and then got into governmental affairs. So he's very closely tied to the Lawrence Township Schools, of course. The gentleman in the white is the fire chief, Dino Vitalis. Then you've got Billy the Bison from BW3. I'm standing there, they caught me in a weird pose. I wasn't smiling, I wasn't frowning, I don't know what that's about. The general manager of BW3 is kind of behind me, and then of course Dr. Smith. And this was just a couple weekends ago at Lucas Oil Stadium during the LNLC football game, and we presented a check from a fundraiser that we did, a wing eating contest. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but what it was a demonstration of mutual respect for the Susan Jordan Foundation and the schools. So if you'll go to the next slide, these are just, I know they may be a little hard to see, but we're very much a child protection, development, relationship building kind of an agency. You see that top middle photo there is Axel, or actually it's Matt Hickey, who we just heard from, and Axel. You see our officers in the upper right out in the community and responding to a run in an apartment complex. The lower left is off. I put him in there specifically because he is a Lawrence Township Schools employee. He's a Lawrence Police Department officer who works for the schools, and he was selected to go to Houston to get trained to handle NICO. And so Matt and Nico will join Matt and Axel, in the schools. And so we're going to we're so excited about Nico, because what's cool about this is when Nico is not on duty or off duty for the schools, he's going to be on duty for the city of Lawrence in a patrol function. He's not a bite dog, but he's an explosives detection, ammunition, guns, weapons, those kind of things. We have the young men and women in the middle picture there with the blue polo shirts and the 511 type slacks. Those are our explorers, and we have an explorers program that draws many children from our schools and exposes them to law enforcement as a career. And we put that when you become an explorer, you're actually held to the same standards of conduct, and you have to follow the same rules that the police officers have to follow, the same rules and regulations and all those things, and they get exposed. And what we're doing is we're trying to instill a sense of law enforcement as a possible career in our young students as well. The other photo there is from our community day. It's a kid ID card tent that we were really happy to take part of as well. And then I'm going to wrap up. I think I've got one more slide here, and this is a philosophy that we have probably all heard ever since 9/11. It's a Department of Homeland Security phrase, and we beat this drum all the time, and it doesn't get old. It's not a cliche. This phrase and the philosophy behind it simply saves lives, and that is, see something, say something. And I've added a little something on the end of that I profess locally, and that is, if you see something and say something, we will do something. And it doesn't matter how minor or how suspicious or if something doesn't seem right, we want our kids, our parents, our citizens, our officers to just say something. It's so easy. I'm so impressed with Lawrence Township Schools. Every school has an anonymous tip line that kids can call if they want to report something and not feel like they're going to be ratted out or that they're a snitch or any of those horrible connotations. They can make anonymous tips, and law enforcement or school security will act upon them. One thing it just makes my spine tingle, is when I hear phrases like this after an event. I saw that coming, or somebody knew, or, well, that doesn't surprise me, when something bad happens. And if people are saying that, then that means they knew something and didn't say something. So, situational awareness. Roger said something the other day in a meeting that really caught my ear, and that is, you can probably barely read it, but his goal is to connect, and whether it's him or one of the teachers or some adult in our schools should, every day, every single student, every single day, have a connection with everybody. You know, not just the ones we like, or the ones that are popular, or the ones that are outgoing. Every single student, every single day. That is building trust. And then I'll just wrap up by saying, social media, we use it in a law enforcement function all the time. We solve crimes. We develop suspects, witnesses. We are out there in the community. We have officers whose job, it's their assignment to monitor social media. And I know as parents, you do too. You should. It's a great glimpse into your children's lives, and you can really see who they're hanging out with, their network of friends, what's going on. So I would encourage you, maybe not on the level, the investigative level, but just folks in the back, really, if your kids have any kind of a social media platform, check it out. Make sure you're a friend of theirs, because you'll learn an awful lot about them. And you'll probably learn more about their friends. So that's kind of my take on it, and it's a pleasure. I do want to emphasize too, having Jim Parrish on board with the schools and obviously his knowledge of the police department, the community, that is just, I mean, it was a no-brainer to keep him on as a reserve officer, a reserve lieutenant, and with his role with the schools, because that really epitomizes this partnership that we have with the schools, and we will absolutely do everything we can to continue that.
Thank you, Chief. One thing I'll add is, real quick, is what we have here with IPD, Lawrence Police, Lawrence Fire, and IFB. Not only do they work with the kids in the schools, but when they're out there on their tour of duty and something happens, even what people think about the kids or what other kids think about each other, when they see that friendly face of the firefighter or the policeman, that is a comfort zone for them. So that is building trust in the community and bringing it back to schools. And that's what we got to work on every day.